how does JD actually stand out? Transport can be a crowded market, right? So how do you differentiate?
First contract, I remember it was a produce contract in the market. I remember calling one of the agents in the market and saying to him, what time would you like me to deliver? And he laughed and he said, shit, the prior truck company just dropped it on my doorstep 3 hours before I got there and it sat outside. I ended up picking up 3 or 4 customers off the back of that.
Thanks for joining. Really appreciate your time. So, I guess for people who don't know, why don't you give us a bit of a high level overview on JD and yourself and kind of how you came to be?
Yeah, it's a good starting point. I guess I started life as an accountant with Ernst Young, and then spent 20 years in consumer goods. But I guess you'd say on the other side of the fence. So when I started this business 14 years ago, I came from the perspective of knowing, what I liked and what I didn't like about, logistics and the supply chain from the manufacturing side of the fence, into sort of, here's an opportunity to start something and start with those sort of key parameters as the basis of the business. But the other catalyst for it was that I was living in Melbourne at the time, and my wife and I wanted to start having kids, and I wanted my kids to grow up with their cousins like I did, and my family are all Brisbane. I come from Brisbane originally. So at that point I was thinking, what do I do? And in the consumer goods industry, there wasn't a lot of senior roles, CEO type roles in manufacturing businesses based up in Brisbane. Most of them were down sort of Sydney and Melbourne way. So in order to relocate myself back to Brisbane, I had to start a business, and logistics was it, or trucking was it.
Yeah.
How did that happen? I guess it probably for 4 years before that, I was the chief operating officer for a company, Aussie Farmers Direct. And what I did was I saw an opportunity in these franchise delivery rounds of theirs to sort of start a business on the side. So that was my first foray into sort of running trucks, and they were little 2-pallet trucks doing into the home deliveries for Aussie Farmers Direct. So I brought on a mate of mine who was looking for something to do to run them, and I sort of funded it, and that's how we sort of started. And it wasn't until the collapse of Aussie Farmers Direct, which coincided with me wanting to come back to Brisbane, that I saw an opportunity it's funny, you see an opportunity out of the collapse of a business, but 6 months prior to their collapse, I'd been up there doing a review, and I'd seen all these trucks. We were doing all the outbound deliveries, but I saw all these trucks coming inbound. I thought, well, if we're doing the outbound stuff, why can't we do the inbound stuff? So I went to Aussie Farmers Direct and convinced them to let me put a 14-pallet truck on, a bigger truck on, to do some of their inbound deliveries, their milk, their produce, etc. And in 6 months, it sort of it made good money. And I thought, we could climb it's a higher barrier to entry with more expensive trucks, and we're up against anyone who could afford a second-hand 2-pallet truck and $50,000 truck, and was willing to work below the award wage. And I thought, well, let's give this a go. So once that sort of had proven itself, Aussie Farmers went bust. But I was actually overseas at the time. I was on a holiday over in Japan, and I got the phone call saying, quick, get back here, and you got to get your trucks off of site because they're going to padlock the gates. Yeah. And by the time I hopped off that flight on the way home, I thought, you know what, I'll sell off all those little ones. The only way I'll be disappointed is if I don't take that 14-pallet truck and replicate that, 50 times. And that's essentially what we did. I proved that there was, with my sort of background on the other side of the fence, there was an opportunity to get in there, get my head under the hood with people that I knew, and deliver a solution, a logistics solution for them under a partnership type model. And that's essentially what we've done with the JD business. We took that 14-pallet truck, and my first major account was with someone that my network was strong from my prior life, so to speak, and where people would let me get my head under the hood, I was able to pull together a solution that worked, and that's how we built the JD business.
Nice. That's a really good story. Those early days, like looking back, what do you reckon was some of the toughest parts of those first few years for you building the business?
I hopped in a truck. So when I left, essentially came out of the boardroom and hopped in a truck for 8 months and drove drove the truck through the day, and I was invoicing at night, and we were invoicing on out of spreadsheets and on Word documents, and which is totally foreign from where I'd sort of been before. So I guess the sort of shock in change of what I was doing, in hindsight, it was massive. In the moment, I loved every second of it because I was sort of learning and building along the way. But it's a whole other realm of complications that you're fronting into. And in the early stages, keeping staff when working out what I would spend my time doing versus paying others to do. It's in hindsight, I'm super proud of that journey, but yeah, it wasn't easy at all.
Yeah. And for you to get into the refrigerated transport side, was that purely because of your past life at Aussie Farmers Direct and the experience there with some of the produce?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, definitely. That was, it was born off the back of milk and produce deliveries, but I also knew that in any industry you've got what is essentially a commodity range, and you the more you can climb the margin ladder, so to speak, by doing value added pieces of business, the more profitable you can be. So for me, I didn't want to just go into sort of line haul dry freight. It had to be sort of somewhere where I could add value, which which people were prepared to pay for.
Yeah. And I guess jumping into any transport business, but let alone, finding a niche in cold chain, there's always a level of competition out in the market, I suppose. But back in those days, like, and even now, how do you differentiate or how does JD actually stand out? Because I guess transport can be a crowded market, right? So how do you differentiate?
100%. I mean, you've got to add value. I mean, when we started out, my first contract, I remember it was a produce contract in the markets, and I remember calling one of the agents in the markets and saying to them, "What time would you like me to deliver?" And he laughed and he said, "Shit, the current." The prior truck company just dropped it on my doorstep 3 hours before I got there, and it sat outside, and and I bought it in. And I go, well, that's no good. It's the cold chain. We got to keep the cold chain. So you tell me when you want me to arrive. So he ended up going out and telling everyone else in the markets about this new business that was time slotting their deliveries into the agents, and I ended up picking up 3 or 4 customers off the back of that. So I guess the thing there was something which didn't feel right. Was something that we jumped on, we changed, we added value, and that's sort of been the way we've gone ever since. So I sit in a meeting, I ask people what their pain points are, and we try and find solutions to those pain points.
Yeah.
We had, back in the early days, it was the rejections out of the major retailers for temperature or temperature abuse or things like that were, I couldn't believe it, the dollars they were talking. So we put a lot of effort into not just the technology, but the systems and the process, the people and the process, the training piece that sort of went alongside it. So by controlling, systems, people, process, we were able to deliver a better outcome. We even got to a point where, for some of our produce clients, we were calling them. If they wanted us to do it, we would call if there was an issue on the dock in one of the delivery points. We'd call them from the dock, and they might be able to, then reach out to the buyers while we were still on dock and resolve the problem. So we were continually looking for ways to add value, which would either save the client money or deliver them a better outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back, I mean, I love what you said about when you first started, you were driving a truck for, 8 months and then kind of doing the invoicing at night. It must give you a bit of an advantage, right, when it comes to hiring, especially if you're looking for drivers or people at all levels, because if you've kind of done that role yourself, as the CEO and owner of the business, I would think it would help you, I don't know, kind of relate to people across the business, regardless of what role they're playing in the business. Does that has that helped you, like getting on the front lines?
Oh, I mean, most of all, I mean, I don't recruit the drivers personally anymore. It certainly helped me from a recruitment point of view in those early days. It helps me from a relatability point of view, 100%. But probably most of all, it's just an appreciation that you have for what they do day in, day out. And I've always said it, our business, if you've got a good driver, behind the wheel, it can save a lot of headaches downstream or upstream, depending on how you look at it. So that appreciation, it sort of, how do I say it? It sort of permeates throughout the business, where the culture is that we support. We're here, so the head office, we don't call it head office, we call it a support office, where we're here to support that driver network who are out there doing the job for us day in, day out. So that's the way I look at it. It's just a greater appreciation, which delivers a massive benefit, I think.
For sure. Now, you mentioned headaches. Talk us through some of the potential headaches, specifically with cold chain, right? Because I would imagine that a lot can potentially go wrong from the time a product is leaving the supplier and actually arriving at the store. Would you maybe be able to walk us through what that, kind of looks like, and what are some of the mitigations, I guess, that you guys need to look at?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, when you think about it, there's all different types of product that we transport, and they're all at different product ranges and temperature ranges, and those temperature ranges can be as narrow as 2 degrees. Where you've got to maintain that product to within 2 to 4 or 4 to 6 degrees. But I've always said that you can have the greatest equipment in the world, but if your people don't care enough to get it right, that's a massive part of what we do. So people and process is such a big part of what we do. The training piece, but also the cultural piece. That care factor, I can't put a value on that, because what I've learned is that you rely on people to perform the process that goes alongside of this temperature. So it's not just setting the right temperature range, but it's monitoring that piece of equipment, because over the journey, lots of things can happen to the equipment, and it relies on them being on, monitoring and on board with it. Opening doors, closing doors when you get to docks, turning fridge units off while doors are open to stop making sure that the docks and the docking and unloading process, we maintain the cold chain from end to end. The process piece is massive, so we invest a hell of a lot in training drivers, and that's not just one of the things we changed in the very early piece was we found that there were some drivers being sent out by different businesses with less than a day of induction training. Our induction training program is a minimum 3 days, and then after that, it's the driver doesn't go out on their own until they pass muster, so to speak, on the process that we need them to be adopting. So some people might only spend 3 days if they might be an experienced operator, come from doing a very similar type of role. But then some of them we might spend a week and a half with getting them up to speed, and then from there it's a constant refresher. Some things we'll refresh on a quarterly basis, some things on an annual basis. We've also put a lot of investment around digitally being able to. We have an online platform called Tribal Habits, which allows us to push toolboxes, training programs out to all of our drivers, Survey Monkey type things as well, if we want to get feedback, test them on certain things, and that's proved really, really good too. Especially now with a team of 120 odd drivers, that's pretty critical.
Yeah, wow. And as you have scaled over the years, how do you maintain that close knit kind of, family orientated feel with the culture? But at the same time, you've obviously scaled to a point where you're a pretty large business now, a lot of staff, a lot of drivers. How do you maintain that balance, of keeping that culture in check without losing the little personal touches?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, right? You get bigger. I mean, I know sort of 80% of the names of drivers now, and within a month or two, so we're based here at Archerfield, but not every driver comes through this site. Some drivers run out of, satellite sites, and you might be recruiting a driver, and I might not see that driver for, for a couple of months. So I pride myself on, on knowing I hate walking around seeing someone I don't know in a JD vest, but invariably as you get bigger, that it becomes more difficult to do things like that. But so I think first and foremost, we really at this site here at Archerfield, we make a real effort to get out and talk to all of the drivers. That's just not myself, but the entire support office. So we don't expect people to sit and stay behind their desk here in the office. Get out, talk to the drivers. It's driving's a tough gig, right? You're out there doing 8 to 10 hour shift, and you've got probably less than 20 minutes of touch point with with the office a day, and it depends on what time you start and what time you finish as to who you see and who you don't see, and so we've got to make a real effort to interact with them. We also try and pick up the phone where we can as well. We run monthly barbecues here on site, but even that, we stagger that over. We do four times in throughout the day when we do a monthly barbecue, and you still probably only hit 50% of the driver team just by
Yeah.
by definition.
Yeah.
We run quarterly off-site events. We've got one coming up in 2 weeks at the Plough Inn, which is pretty good. So
Nice.
we invite all the team to that, and then we do our annual Christmas party as well. So we try and do a bit of social activity as well as the work stuff. So the barbecues on site. I mean, we try and promote the interaction. That's the key thing. Most people just want an opportunity to be heard, not feel like a number or a bum on a seat, and that's all. And
Yeah.
and for me too, I've always said, the door's always open. I'll never forget in the very early days, I had my first office manager, and she came in after a driver was sort of in talking to me for about 20 minutes, and she said, "Oh yeah, I should have come in 10 minutes ago and cut that off for you." And I go, no, don't ever do that. I said, that's the most valuable part of my day. That 20 minutes means that driver, for the next couple of months goes out there, he feels like I've listened to what he had to say. There's a couple of things we can, change or improve, for them, and they go out happy and doing their best job day in, day out, which for us solves a lot of other potential issues. You know what I mean?
For sure. And do you think that also then helps when you guys are hiring, say, whether it's drivers or warehouse staff, different roles across the business? It can be tough at the moment in this industry and this, various factors. It's pretty tough to recruit good people. But do you find that having that really good culture gets you referrals, or, people worked with a mate who they try and bring over? Or do you find that helps you guys when you are looking to hire?
Yeah, 100%. Most of our driver recruitment would come from existing drivers
Yeah.
referring other drivers. You'd be surprised. I mean, like all industries, people talk. They're
Yeah.
out there on dock meeting other drivers, and if your drivers are speaking positively, then that's going to bode well. I love it when I hear from clients and that they say, it's all the time we see your drivers. Most other drivers are coming in, they're kicking the cat and they're complaining about their their employer and all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But your drivers generally are happy, and I think that is what other drivers notice, and that's what attracts them to the JD business.
Yeah. No, definitely. And wha switching gears a little bit, in terms of technology, how important is tech in your business, especially at the moment, right, where things are evolving quicker than it ever has? A lot of different platforms, a lot of AI tools out there, but how crucial does tech play a role in your business?
Yeah, it's absolutely integral, and particularly now that we're becoming a lot larger. I remember a couple of years ago the point where, you know, having started on the truck with truck number one, and yeah, my touch and feel of the business was very good. And I remember a couple of years thinking, you know what, you're not going to be able to have this touch and feel for forever. And I guess it was just one of those light bulb moments where you know that the scale and the level of complexity gets to a point where you need the systems that can support you in giving you the information that you need to run the business. So we've spent a lot of, and I caveat that with the fact that one of the things that I was really proud of early in the days was I implemented a transport management system in I think year one or 12 months after I'd started the business. And I'm glad I did that at that stage because I invested time from beginning to end in implementing that system, which was Freight 2020 at the time. We're about to move away from that because we've got now a software stack that we've been researching that we want to implement, which is going to give us better, track and trace capability, end-to-end visibility, transparency, being able to incorporate AI across our data to interrogate the data and give us sort of actionable, insights as well.
Yeah.
But that early piece, me investing the time from end to end, it's actually put me in good stead to assess this new software stack that we're going to now. So sort of each step along the along the journey has prepared us for where we are today. And here we are about to implement a software stack that I think, there's no one software package, in my opinion, out there that will do everything you want to do. The main thing is you've got to have software that can talk to each other, so it can seamlessly integrate, and you've got to be able to get data out of each of those and have them sit centrally where you can then interrogate that data, and preferably in a real time, fashion.
Yeah.
It's been exciting to see how things have evolved in this whole system, software, data space. But the one other thing I guess I add to that is that that's only one dimension, because once again, it's the people and the process that go alongside of it. So one of the things I've learnt going through this, I guess call it a second phase process, is that it's no good implementing these new whiz-bang systems if you don't evolve your process and your training of your people at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that what goes with the tech side of things as well is all the marketing and the branding and social, I see is playing a bigger role in the industry probably than it used to a few years ago. How much emphasis or how much weight do you personally put on, say, personal branding? Like I can see you're pretty active on LinkedIn and, getting good engagement out there. Like, how do you see that in this industry at the moment?
I'm glad you said that because my marketing team will appreciate that. They have been convinced. They were trying to convince me for years that my personal presence wasn't. People wanted to connect with the owner of the business. The what do I stand for? Where does it come from? And I was always like, my old man used to say, the breachy whale gets the harpoon. So, you lay low and don't do it. The feedback's been phenomenal. I started doing it probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago with help. And that's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's been really good for the business. I think in our game, and like a lot of games, people research you online. They research the business. They research the people that run the business. So, I've always said our trucks out there on the road are a fantastic form of marketing for us. People notice our trucks, but what they do then is they then hop online and they do their research. And I think social media is pretty important for that, particularly things like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
podcasts like this. People want to know more about the business they deal with. And they might research you for 12 to 18 months before they decide to engage with something. So we put a lot of effort into simply that. We don't do a lot of other forms of marketing. That word of mouth is probably the other big one for us. existing clients talking to other people, or people from existing clients moving to other businesses and bringing us in off the back of that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And looking back on since you've started JD and obviously done a phenomenal job to get it to where it is now, but if you could kind of go back from day one, what would you do anything differently? Would there be anything that you would change?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question, and I guess I'm reluctant to say no, but I feel like the journey is has been the journey. I've loved every second of it. I mean, not to say that it hasn't been painful parts of it. I guess I'm really proud of the journey this business has taken. I mean, in a prior life, not just on the other side of the fence, I did a big stint in the private equity space, probably 5 or 6 years, and what I learned is that as an executive, even not just private equity, but as an executive, you tend to be very short term focused, whether it be based on your incentives or the current mandate of the business. One thing I'm very, very proud of with this business is that the right decision. I feel like we've made the right decision for the long term in every situation, and that's been the lens that I've always put on it. Don't cut any corners. Do what's right. If you can't be proud of something, change it. Make a decision that you're going to be proud of, and that's what I love most about the journeys. Not to say that we've done everything right per se, but we've had the right intention, and I think that's put us in good stead. I think that's got us to where we are today, and a lot of other businesses, I think, you can have 4 or 5 values on a wall. The one value we always talk about is to be proud of what we do, proud of every decision you make. If you see something, a piece of equipment, an asset that you're not proud of, change it. Do.
Yeah.
And that's been the guiding light for our business. So no, I don't think about changing anything on the journey. The mistakes our mistakes have made us where we are today too. We front into our mistakes, we fix them, and we keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And on this show, like we've got listeners of all different ages, right? So I get approached from school leavers or people at uni who are considering a career in transport, or they're unsure, or they've heard about logistics and all the different roles. But if you were talking to, say, the next generation coming through, because as we know, it's a challenge, right? Trying to attract younger people into the industry.
Yeah.
What are some key selling points that you would tell them, as to why they should consider transport or logistics broadly as an industry to get into?
I mean, it's such a diverse game, but I'll tell you this: when I started in logistics, I mean, people that I knew, they looked at me like I had 2 heads. Like, why would you want to? Why would you want to do that? Low margins, massive competitors. To be honest, I think that's nonsense. In any industry, if you're focused on delivering value to the client, you can find a niche where you can make money, you can be successful, and you can be sustainably so. This industry, simplicity is not the right word, but just the rubber hitting the road, being there, seeing the trucks, out there on the road, being a part of something that we're an essential service in that Australia's food, supply is dependent upon road transport. There's a lot to be proud of, and it's tangible.
Yeah.
So no fugazi in it. You've got a lot of industries where you're looking for the least path of resistance to profitability. This is very real, very tangible. Delivers a phenomenal service, a necessary service. Yeah. There's a lot to be proud of. Lots of moving parts too, right? You've got being based here, where we oversee, the trucks coming and going. It's the maintenance of the vehicles. It's the procurement of all the parts that go into it. It's the selling on the other side of it. And we're dealing with, blue chip multinationals all the way down to, corner stores. And it's such a diverse exciting, and no day is the same as the day before it. In fact, if I look back, like my most enjoyable part of my career has been in this business, and what I'd say to young people coming through, where I think the temptation is to think that everything exists online these days, and it's not to say that online's not an important part of what we do. Even this can be an exciting, diverse, and very interesting career option that is in the supply chain in road transport.
For sure. And I think it's one of the few industries that I can't see AI taking over anytime soon, delivering goods from A to B, which is
I think
important.
that's a fear, isn't it? Yeah. Everyone's afraid. I just think it's going to make, for those, adoption is just going to make us more efficient. Like any other form of technology, you got to embrace it and use it for however it can make you more efficient. It's interesting you say that too, because we're at the stage where what we're doing internally, we've got big future aspirations with regards to AI and technology, but stage one is actually overcoming the fear of adoption in each of the individuals in the team. So we're running sort of monthly breakfasts internally where we encourage and share how individual members in the team have adopted AI and what's working for them and what hasn't worked, and we're in that. How do we encourage people to adopt, adopt change, adopt new technology? Because then when we start to go and roll out, because that's what I think a lot of businesses have struggled with, is the adoption.
Yeah,
everyone sort of has these ideas that they can put in play, but it's a brave new world.
and I think that's probably I think the reality is the people most affected will be the ones that don't embrace that change, as opposed to just AI completely taking over everything. I think that the ones that do embrace it, especially early on, will have such a huge advantage in the marketplace.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, and it can save you a phenomenal amount of time. Like just little things that I was doing a spreadsheet the other day, and then there was a rather complicated spreadsheet with the formula, which might have otherwise taken me probably 20 minutes to work out how to do that formula right through trial and error. It was like, 30-second prompt into Copilot. That's
unbelievable.
It's like, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. And what's the outlook for your business, if you have a crystal ball over the next few years? Where are you guys sort of expanding and heading to?
I mean, for years we've had clients say to us, when you're ready to clone yourself in another state, let us know. We'll help underpin it, and I've been reluctant to do that, mainly because what you said before around how we drive our culture, it's very hands-on. And I'm really proud of that. And I guess there's some degree of nervousness, and I won't take that step interstate until I'm confident that we can replicate the same level of service that we do here. But the reality is, I think the next couple of years, I think we can double our size just doing exactly what we currently do in the geography we already do it. And that's our focus, right? That's our focus, is to nail the blueprint here in Southeast Queensland, and then expand interstate from there.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear a good success story, because as you probably know as well, right, there can be a bit of doom and gloom in the industry and in the market in general, but it seems like you've kind of bucked the trend, and you've had really good growth, and a lot more to come by the sounds of it, which is, testament to you and obviously your leadership, but also having the right people around you, right? Because I think it's ultimately a people business, and without the right people, it's going to be tough.
100%. Sam, what, in this game, more so than most, gravity takes you in the wrong direction. You've got to constantly be fighting against it, and I've always known that, and it's one thing to know it. It's another thing you can speak it and say it till the cows come home. But to walk it is bloody difficult. And surrounding myself with good people helps keep you on that focus. And I think that there's been lots of tough conversations and tough times to if you sort of just roll with the flow of this industry, they will take you into non-profitability really quickly. It's being able to say no, and knowing what to say no to, and when to draw a line in the sand, and when to take a step back, and potentially lose a piece of business to go forward. These are all hard things. It's easy to say, they're hard things to do, but that's been the secret to success. And no one's immune. We got you. You can have a blue chip client that if they, if costs are going up and they're not willing to move on price, you've got to be strong enough to, and you've got to be established. Your business has got to be established enough to be able to take that hit as well. You've also got to then manage it really, really well on the other side too, and how you procure and how you manage your your supplier base. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and you can't do that on your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's such a dynamic and evolving industry, and there's so many external factors which I think can impact the industry downstream as well, right? If there's wars in the Middle East and the price of oil goes up and the price of diesel goes up and interest rates and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I think that there's always going to be those factors out there, and it's just how you react to them, and rather than using them, just purely as an excuse. But it can be tough as well. So I think you've got to be agile.
I think just the communication, you've got to be agile without a doubt. That is 100% the truth. I remember coming through as a young fella, and if you were, you always looked at the big companies as the safe haven, and size almost predicated success. And it's not the case these days with the rate of disruption and change.
It's almost
agility
the
is more important. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. But also, I think the other thing is with disruption being rife, I guess what I've learned is not to sit on your hands. Front into it, communicate with transparency, and deal with whatever problem together with your clients, with your suppliers, collaboratively. And as quicker you do that, and the more transparent you are, the better the outcome. I think is probably what I've learned.
Yep, for sure. No, that's good. We managed to cover quite a lot. Was there anything else that you were thinking of, or you wanted to cover off?
No, I don't do too many of these, Sam. But it's been an enjoyable chat, mate. And I think I did before I hopped on. I had a quick look at a couple of other ones you'd done, and it's really great. These, I think for me, I want to start listening to more podcasts like this, because one thing I learnt throughout my career, and what I never think I did enough of, is really take the learnings from other people and the journey of other people in business. Doesn't even have to be the same industry as you.
That's right.
There's a lot to be learned.
Yeah. No, appreciate the kind words. Yeah, thanks again, Joe, for jumping on. It was really good to meet and to have this chat, and congrats on all the success so far.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.